What is good, everybody? Hope you are having a wonderful week so far. This week on the podcast, Huxley and Ramin Rezaie, they are in the process of setting up a new community school record label called Our Tribe. Huxley hit me up and let me know about the project that him and Ramin are doing. And I was really interested of like the whole 360 concept of what they're offering new and up and coming producers. So I wanted to get them both on the podcast. Huxley, DJ producer. If you've never heard of him, go check him out, but I'm pretty sure you have. Ramin, he obviously is a DJ producer, but he's also Solid Groove's record label manager and has his own record label, Silky Records. So yeah, I really enjoyed this podcast. We kind of put a few issues out there of what we feel about the music industry right now. We discussed about what they're going to be offering at Our Tribe, and the reason why they're starting Our Tribe, the reasons why they don't feel the kind of the scene is giving new producers a platform. So really interesting podcast, this one. I really enjoyed it. So without further ado, Huxley and Ramin Rezaie. Mr. Huxley, Ramin Rezaie, what is cooking, lads?
Hello, mate. Good to be back on the show. Good to see you again. It's been
is this
too
your
long.
third time?
I thought it was second, but it might be the third. I'm not sure. I can't remember. All I think you just blur into one for me. One glorious moment.
One glorious bold men coming together.
Yeah, exactly. Will was telling me it was National Bald Day, and he didn't even text me, so our relationship's over.
Oh no, mate.
I think I saw like Shaq post about it, and I was like, if Shaq's posting about National Bald Day, we should all post. Oh, yeah. Hux, turn your emails off.
Yeah, it's off. Don't worry.
Jesus.
Yeah, I know. You can't get the star thing, but that's what it is.
I know. So why are we all here? So I think beforehand, Hux, you've been on the podcast before. People know what you do here. Ramin, you've never been on the podcast, so can you give like a brief like bio of who you are, what you do, and where do you come from?
Yeah, of course.
Cilla Black. I feel like Cilla Black.
Yeah.
Was talking about Blind Date the other day.
Willa Black.
This joke's right.
Cool.
Yeah, cool, man. So I'm Ramin Rezaie. I'm a producer, DJ, and label manager. I've been I'm one of the Solid Groove's residents, so I've been playing those parties for many years. Manage the label, and yeah, I do a lot of mentoring as well. So teach music production, and yeah, just fully embedded in the music industry in the background somewhere. So yeah, that's me.
Nice, man. Nice. Sounds great. So how are you two kind of being linked in this situation? I know, but I want the people to know.
The people have to know, I guess.
I know they do, especially the bold people.
Yeah. Or the people with great moustaches.
Exactly. Yeah, still testing it out. Still not fully committed. Got a shadow going with it.
So Ramin and I, we've known each other actually for years. I played for Solid Grooves, I think, for the first time in maybe even 2015 or 2016. I can't remember.
Yeah, I think the parties were only going a few years when you were playing.
Yeah. And we kind of just connected then, and just saw each other around and stuff. And then, as it happens, we both kind of then started to fall into similar things, which is kind of coaching, mentoring, one-to-ones. We're doing a lot of stuff for online platforms like, videos and all that kind of stuff. And then more personal stuff, like I said, one-to-ones. And then over the last kind of, what has it been, 3 years since we've been kind of working closer?
Yeah, right.
We've been kind of, we've been working with similar people as well, which has helped, and doing kind of similar things. So it's just been a bit of a process of getting to know each other. And now a couple of months ago, we decided that, we've been working for all these other companies, but actually we can see, because we've had the vision of what we've seen from these things, we can see where they're kind of falling down for the actual people's experience, for, what they're getting out of each of these platforms. So we've decided, along with another guy called Andreas, to kind of try and do our own thing and hopefully pick up some of the issues that the people are having and kind of create our own thing called Our Tribe, which is launching at the start of November. And it's kind of, we're creating a platform that is, it has all the production, it has the videos of how to, where to cut your bass and blah 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 and all that kind of thing, but it also adds an additional thing. It's more of an artist platform, so we're hoping to engage singers and allow them to work across the network with people, and then also just DJs as well, because a lot of the DJs, people who are just DJs, and they do exist, obviously feel like they can't interact on these platforms. So it's a kind of, we're trying to create this whole kind of symbiotic community that is good for them, and hopefully, we can make sure that they're getting everything they need to get from it, which we've noticed that actually a lot of people are kind of letting them down on, you know.
100%. We just kind of want to put music first, really. Music first, and not too serious, because I feel like a lot of these platforms are super, super serious. And I always thought music's about having fun and keeping that kind of, curiosity and just, exploring yourself as an artist. And I don't know, just from observation on being involved in other kind of, companies and stuff, I feel like it's just, that's what I want it to be about. I want people to get involved and be like, I really want to kind of enjoy myself, and just no judgment. I want to see mistakes in the studio. I just want some fun with it.
Yeah. I think Hux, you hit the nail on the head to a certain extent. For me, anyway, is like the community, is bringing back the community aspect of it.
Oh yeah, completely.
I think in this day and age, I don't know. It might just be because I've been in it for so long, and we've all been in it for so long, and kind of maybe a little bit jaded, but it feels like the actual community aspect of house music is like kind of going.
I agree. Yeah, completely. You used to see, like, I mean, maybe it's because it's a lot easier to go. There's so many more events, or there has been in the past, but you would see these communities form from like going to the same events each week. I think Solid Grooves is a great example of that. Even back when I first started, you get a lot of people, so they would kind of be able to interact all the time. And then, but also these days, it just feels like everyone's very much focused on their own kind of little bubble, but they're actually not focusing on bringing the more people in and actually giving them, some kind of value for being part of that community. And I think that's something that's missing from a lot of these online platforms. They're just trying to sell them a course or whatever without actually allowing the people. And we've been doing, Ramin and I do some retreats, but and actually, obviously, they have guest coaches and stuff. I just got back from one last week, and like they have all these guest coaches, and we're obviously there to impart my wisdom, which is it's hilarious to me. Someone's asking me to give them advice, but
if only they knew. If only
I
they
know. But what you actually see is you see a real bond form between the people that come to those as well, and that's important. So we're hoping to do that on like a bigger stage, and then what we can offer is obviously tons and tons of years of advice and production knowledge, but also just how supporting each other is so important to kind of get somewhere.
But I guess the question for me though is maybe more so for Ramin, for you, is like what's changed? Like you run record labels, you run Solid Grooves. Do you have your own label as well?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I've
what's that called?
Silky Records. It's like
Silky
more of
Records.
just an imprint for myself and friends to like.
Okay, so you've run record labels for a while. Obviously, Solid Grooves is a very successful record label, very successful night. And Hux hit the nail on the head that you guys have nailed the community aspect, and you have built that and grown that over the years. But when we talk about record labels, what has been the real issue that's kind of changed over the last 10 years that you've seen in the industry that you guys can kind of like change with our tribe?
I mean, I feel like it's harder for artists to kind of, it's harder for artists to kind of get noticed and get picked up. And I kind of wanted this kind of neutral community where it's just, like I said earlier on, it's just about the music. Like we just put that first. It's not about, your social media following. It's not about how long you've been making music. I just want to be in a position where I can just be like, you can't deny a good record. Let's put it
Yeah.
out, and that's it. Just simplify that process. And now I feel like it still happens, but I feel like it's more of a rare case nowadays, just from my observation.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is as well, labels these days. I mean, like you said there, Ramin, you kind of touched on it. I mean, I've heard things even last week. People were telling me, industry insiders. People don't talk about this necessarily like openly, but people, even if you send a demo that a label really likes, unless you've got the social media following or the Spotify listeners above a certain level, they're now deciding not to sign those records just because they're not willing to kind of take a risk on someone who doesn't or hasn't already kind of put the work in that they should actually be helping out with.
Yeah.
Back in the day, record labels, that in some ways, I mean, Solid Grooves actually is a bad example because I still feel like Solid Grooves has such a cachet that if you release on there, it will really help your notice, like you being noticed. But actually, like labels in the past where you could release a record and you get noticed and you get picked up, I don't know. Maybe it's because they're releasing too much and it's not as special anymore, or maybe there's just so many more other labels. Like that they're not. It's not really helping the artist as much as it used to. It's more just to maintain the level of the label really, rather than the artist. And like you say, it does happen. Artists do break through, and you do get those one-offs that are like come from nothing. But I don't think it does. It just doesn't happen as much anymore because labels aren't willing to put the money behind it because there is less money to go around. But that shouldn't stop good A&Ring.
I think also a major issue in all of this is the fact that unless you have like a record label that has a community, that has a following, starting a record label or even just being a record label and kind of never built that growth from the get-go, is the record label is just pointless now because you don't need the record label to release music, right?
No, I mean they're promoting it in exactly the same way that you could do it. Like so many of my people that I speak to one to one, they're like, "Well, I want to get signed to this label. I want to get signed to this label," and they're always like top tier labels, really. But the brass tacks of it is they're probably not gonna sign you even if they like it. And this is something that our tribe can help with. It's about like the community members supporting each other. So say you start a label, you release it. Realistically, this is maybe a bit of a cheat code that no one wants to talk about. But like if we got say 150 people in the community each to buy that release, they'd probably be quite high in those Beatport charts.
100%.
If we get a couple of people who have got some well placed playlists, they're probably going to get like 5,000-10,000 streams on those releases. Whereas before, realistically, if you release on your own label, it's very hard unless you have that community around you to actually to kind of push yourself up like that.
I also think a massive issue that's happening now is the bigger record labels, not necessarily the majors. I don't think we can put the majors in the same camp because they're just in a world of their own. But even like the indie majors, which are in-house music, they're all majors realistically because they've got so much money behind them, but they call themselves indie and try and act like they're indie, but they're not. I think the issue is that their model at this moment in time, because there's no way to success now. There's no physical sales. Beatport sales have probably gone down massively. Streaming's gone down massively because there's no road to business. They're literally just throwing shit at the wall and seeing what sticks. And I think when on a week where a record label is releasing 10-20 records and you have a team of like 10 people. There's physically no way that you can
give the care that you need.
Yeah,
not at all.
And I think like I go back to like even like my Dirty Bird days. It's very different. You can't compare the two because streaming wasn't even around then. But it was a monthly release, and for that month beforehand and the month after release, you were the only person they were talking about.
Yeah, completely, 100%. I mean, you look at even, you look at some of those labels. There was a particular label that I strive to get on for a very, very long time, a really cool one. I won't talk about the name, but the thing is, when I got signed to it, I was hyped. This was like 2015, 2014. I can't remember exactly, maybe slightly later. But then what's happened with that label is because they now release every week, it's just
Yeah.
not as special getting on there. And everybody
Yeah.
knows it's not as special. Like promoters know, other DJs know, like, because like you're saying, they're talking about you for that week. But then if that record doesn't do well straight away, then for them, that record is over. But for you, that record is like, a bigger part. So
That's the thing.
you're essentially left to promote it without any of their help. And if it, to be honest, it seems like if something doesn't work within the first 4 days, like over that first weekend, actually, that's when the teams of these people just don't seem to lose interest. But maybe that's just from like my pessimistic kind of like everybody hates me point of view.
As well, because records just like come back alive 2 years down the line. Like it's not really. It's a shame people it's a shame. It's so saturated nowadays, actually.
But I think that is the issue, right? And I think that we can say like, oh, there's so many more people releasing music and blah blah blah. But realistically, there's a lot of shit music being released. There's a lot of really really good music being released though, and 99% of that really good music being released isn't being released correctly. And I don't just blame the labels. I blame the artist. I blame the streaming platforms. I blame everything. Like, even on my label, like I say this to the guys on the label, so this isn't any disrespect to them, but like when I ask them for certain assets, and they don't send it to you for 2 months, I can't promote your record if you're not going to send me the assets. I'm sorry, I can do a certain amount, but
completely.
But so I think it's also having expectations, but realistically, great records. I always used to be a believer that a great record will come through, and now I'm not. I don't believe that will happen.
I agree.
I think great records are being lost because realistically, we're in a business, and I think people forget about that in this industry.
Yeah.
And for any business that has a product, you have to market and you have to sell.
You do, and I think actually, when we came through, because social media was still relatively in its infancy, even 15 years ago when I released my first Huxley record, right? That's fucking scary to say that out loud, but there we go. But social media was in its infancy, and it was more of a kind of DIY platform at that point because you didn't have like such big companies, manufacturing the process as much because they didn't know what worked. But the promotion was, I say this a lot to people. I used to be able to post a link on Facebook of my new track that came out, get like 10,000 likes, and it would sell the record. I wasn't having to do like hey guys, my new single's out now fucking video that I absolutely fucking hate. But and it's for something actually that I refused to do for a long time. Like I was a big advocate of like a bit like you. If it's a good record, I don't need to do these things. But now you're completely right. It's why I've started to do more social media. It's why now I'm doing like posting on TikTok regularly rather than just like fucking looking at cult videos on there, or whatever the rabbit hole I've gone down that week is. But like you say, it is down to the artist. To sell those records more so now, like I'm start releasing. I release on generally big record labels, and it's something that I've realised that is the onus is now on me. I can't rely on them to give me anything because actually a big record label does not guarantee you big Spotify playlists. It doesn't guarantee you radio plays anymore. It doesn't even guarantee you a banner on fucking Beatport anymore. So like.
And to butt in there, sorry to butt in, but
no, go for it.
It also doesn't guarantee you gigs.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't guarantee you gigs at all. Like you could release a record on Hot Creations back in the day, and your diary was like chocker. Now, like it released on whatever the label. I mean, maybe Solid Grooves even released on Solid Grooves. Now it doesn't, unless you're having a massive hit. The needle doesn't move. I mean, and I think that's why Ramin and I like. That's good for this community is because it's taking you out. Like I live in a village, right? There's not that many people around me, and there's obviously a lot of other people in different parts of the world that are just on their own. Last week there was a guy, and he was like, "None of my friends like house, so this is the first time I've been around people that actually like house music for years." And it's like giving those people like-minded like minds that will then go on and support each other through their releases. Like maybe hopefully they'll all collaborate and work together, but they'll be, because they have a focal point to do it, and they have like the support of us, then fingers crossed, and that can kind of create some really good movement for them, which they wouldn't be able to have if they weren't kind of part of this online community, whatever you want to call it. But I think it's important.
It's so weird, isn't it, at this moment in time? I think I think it's a conversation that everyone's having internally but not really talking about, is that there's no one knows how to kind of move the needle. And I think it's a really sad thing, because it's like it's the music industry's always been a gamble. No matter, even if from day one, it's always been a gamble whether or not you're going to be successful. But I just feel like now it's even more of a gamble. And for people that are coming in early, like new to this, it's so that everyone's so accessible, right? Which is a great thing, right? You like, as a new producer DJ, you can literally DM Carl Cox. And he might respond.
Never know if he's bored, like taking a shit bored, and looked in his sent messages. He might just respond to you. You never know. I in some ways, I love that because it puts everyone in one way on a level playing field. But then in a more selfish way, I think it also kind of takes away some of the mystery of people, because they're so accessible, and it kind of it does take away something about it, makes it less like when that person plays your record, or they put it in a chart or whatever, like you haven't been able to have any contact with them. They've done that purely because they wanted to do it, if you know what I mean. So I think that in some ways the accessibility that social media has brought has actually kind of made everything a bit less exciting. But maybe that's just from a standpoint of I experience where you would get. I can remember when Kerry started playing Box Clever, and I basically shit the bed. I feel like those moments are obviously still really special to people who are new, but also you don't have the same mystery behind it, in my opinion. But
I think it has less impact as well now. I think the fact that a big artist plays your record, yes, it is great, and there's a lot of artists that grow careers out of that. But I feel like there is a lot less impact on that, because music's so readily available and also so throwaway. Like you can be playing a record as a bigger DJ this week, and next week not play it ever again. And and I think
tracks don't have a lifespan anymore.
Artists used
like people don't update their
hello
gone.
Can you hear me?
Then? Yeah, I think
little drop out.
Yeah, the UFOs are over my house right now.
Careful, mate.
What were you saying?
I've got a great TikTok video about that. I'll send it afterwards. Anyway, carry on.
They just like how the like a track you'll get like I see a lot of this where you get support video, or another upcoming gets support, they play it out, and then that artist won't play that record out again. And that's even in my set, I think that's a bit wild, because like if I really love a record, I'm gonna play it a little bit more often than just one set. Like it's
completely.
I had a video of Carl Cox playing one of my records from on Circle.
Oh yeah.
So I ripped it and then uploaded it, and then Circle tried to take the video down.
Really?
Like, it's my fucking record, you bunch of cunts.
What the fuck are you getting? Oh yeah, I'm gonna copyright strike that.
Yeah, they did, and I got a mark on my YouTube channel, and I had to do copyright score on YouTube for me to upload anything else.
Copyright score? What's that? I've not seen that. That's insane.
I lost you again.
You lost me?
There we go. No, we're back. We're back recording.
We're back. Yeah, there you go. It's being out in the sticks, isn't it? That's the problem. Well,
yeah, it's really weird. I got really good Wi-Fi during COVID. We got fiber, and I don't know why, but recently it's been playing up. But yeah,
Oh, well.
being country life.
It's good for an online podcast, that, isn't it?
It's fucking great, mate. It's great. I really want to do some of these in person now. Like, I really want to
almost
try.
suggested coming up to you to do it, but then I couldn't be asked. So,
Mate, you can never be asked to drive.
Oh, like the way.
I don't think you've ever been down here.
No. You've been to my house a few times, though, so that's fine.
Yeah, I have. I have indeed.
A different house now, though, but yeah.
It looks pretty similar, though. That cupboard in the back is in exactly the same position.
Maybe you did come to this house. Maybe you did. maybe, yeah, possibly. I always remember our one for my body. That was at my old house, though. That was.
So I've only been to one house then.
Oh, okay, then there you go. Yeah, that's what I thought.
I actually heard that. I was going through music the other day, old music, and I heard the drum and bass edit that we did.
Fuck, I haven't got that. Send it over.
All right.
I haven't got that. I completely forgot we did a little jungle bit in the middle. Yeah. We were ahead of our time.
We were.
John Summit's doing that now. He must have found our track. Copied it. No, only you have a copy.
Oh, that's what it was. Fuck.
Yeah.
We missed it. We
could have been doing MSG. That would have been great.
Sold out in 2 hours. That's also the amazing thing of now, right? Looking at the positives, right? Of like where the industry's at, right? And even like with what you guys are doing at Solid Grooves, what all the Dom's doing, what John's doing, what Michael's doing, like what all these guys and girls are doing in this industry now. That 10 years ago was few and far between. Like 10 years ago, it was, who was it? It was Dead Mouse, Cascade, Calvin Harris.
Yeah.
There was like a handful of people, right?
Yeah.
Now there's like 30, 40 people that can all do the same thing.
I mean, do you know what, actually, I know we're just talking about what I would think's bad, but actually what you said there is right about social media, right? It proves that it proves you don't need that like top 10 hit to be doing these huge things. And again, I guess it's what Ramin and I are doing. It's just about John as someone who's fostered his community and built it. And that's what you have to do. You have to engage. Once you have those people engaging with you, you have to maintain that level of like engagement. And like I've always hated the term fans when you're a DJ because like fans seems very like pop music kind of, thing. I would say it's more like followers or enthusiasts or like, but that's just maybe me not being comfortable with someone being a fan of mine. I don't know, that makes me feel a bit awkward. But what it does mean is like someone like John or like you say Dom, they have built these communities, these fans, these people and they've shown the kind of world that you can sell out these huge arenas without having like obviously their tracks are really, really big and they do really, really well. But like you say, before it was like Calvin Harris, who's multiple top tens. It was before that, Faithless or The Prodigy or whatever. But they were like, commercial acts in one sense. And I think now anyone has the ability to do that. It's just knowing how to engage your fan base into those moments, which is, I guess, the hard bit.
And also having a level of luck. There is, I think that's what a lot of people stop talking about in this industry as well. The level of luck in this, right? Like, even when, like, we can say this about Solid Grooves, right? You could literally have thrown those parties, done those, released all the same records, and there was a matter of timing that it just fell off, right? Like Hux, when you first started releasing records, there could have been a point where that person that first played your record, they put it in front of 1,000 people, didn't play that record, didn't pick that record.
It's true.
And it's right moment, right time. I think you're completely right. I think there's a level of luck. The thing I would say is, I think unless you're putting in the hard work and you're like putting in the hours and you're putting yourselves in those positions, you're never going to get that luck. Yeah. So you can't just sit there and just expect it to come. Like, I'm sure there's producers there who are much better than all three of us, just sitting at home, putting out music again, a bit like me, with no like social media or anything, and just being like, well, it's all about luck anyway. If, at the right moment will just happen. But
Yeah.
unless you're putting in the time, and that's promotion, but that's also networking, and that's putting yourselves in front of people. I think that luck, it's like a kind of just that it's like a moment, isn't it?
Yeah.
And once you have
I've
that,
spoken to a lot of artists that like will put effort into like a couple of records, they don't go, and then they're like, oh, I don't have it, and I'm going to call it a day. Like even people like Mental, and I'm like, you have to keep at it, even if it takes you 10, 15.
oh yeah, I mean,
like people just stop it. They're like, oh no, it didn't get picked up. I put one post out on Instagram and sent it to 10 people on email, and no one supported it.
But what do you think that issue is? Because I think that's the actual crux of the issue with this industry. I think it's the instant gratification and instant fame, and I think that's what, because this has got so big, right? Because this industry has got so big, and I'm not actually blaming social media, because it is but pros and cons. But like, I think social media has allowed people to see that they look like that they have overnight success, right?
but they don't. Yeah, exactly.
They know years in the background, like true.
Yeah. People like see that one record. I mean, I think. I mean, there's two things. I think they see people tip over the edge, and they've never heard of them before. So then people generally don't necessarily go back. They find that one record, and then they just follow them from there. It's not like, most people don't then dig backwards. Like, well, not the general public anyway, normally.
Yeah.
But or maybe they will a little bit, but they won't really think about it in the way that actually this record did nothing at the time of being released. It's just I'm listening to this song they released then, and I think there's no one called, like, even if you haven't put a release out and your first release does really well, like, you don't know how many years that they've been like tormenting themselves about sending music out or learning how to produce, and it's a bit like what Ramin said there. People now think they see this and they think, well, my first record hasn't been picked up by Toolroom, I'm obviously shit, and like my career is going nowhere. And it's just that's not how life works.
It doesn't work like that at all.
But I think that culturally, and it feels like at this moment in time, the world is like that, and it feels it feels like, in especially the Western world, from what I've experienced, is that like, if you're not 25 years old and a multi-millionaire and you're not successful in your business and everything like that, then you're an absolute failure. And I genuinely think there's like,
there's a mindset, isn't there?
Yeah, and I but then I also question, are people getting into the music industry for the wrong thing?
I mean, I think that's always happened, though, to be honest. Like, people have always seen success and then wanted to kind of, they're more there for the adulation and the money. But I think, maybe all the time I've been there. Actually, that's not necessarily true. Actually, when I was,
I'd push back on that.
When I was in the UK garage scene, when no one was listening to UK garage, everyone was there for the love because there was nothing else.
You were ahead of your time then as well.
Just generally, yeah. Next thing is everyone's going to be wearing these trousers. You what? Give it 5 years.
5 years or 40 years.
I do think there's always been a level, but now obviously that's just so much more rampant than it ever has been. I think you're right. Like, people, this whole like millionaire mindset kind of, I make how much money a year by doing all these bullshit stuff, which is actually bollocks because they're selling a course, or they're just lying. It's not good for people's ability. Like, no one wants to put in the long game anymore. Like Ramin said, people giving up after 2 releases. If people
are blinded by like what's authentic. That's what I've noticed more on all this. Like, even like out of all these musicians that I sometimes hear, like, what is actually real? Like, a lot of the time.
Yeah.
Go deeper onto that, man. Explain what you mean.
I mean, like, it's just that when you like, flicking through Instagram and I see all these like profiles, like, you'd be like, okay, this person's got 100k followers. They've got all these videos, but like, how like fabricated are these videos where they're in front of a crowd? Like, I'm pretty convinced there's artists in a studio with like 30 people and it's just the camera angles. And then like another upcoming artist will look at this video and they'll just be like, oh, I can do that as well. There must be thousands of people in front of it. And then it's just like this this kind of like fake persona that's just like pushed on Instagram because they're putting loads of money into ads. They're pushing out all these videos, and I feel like that's another form of just causing this like saturated, this kind of like artists that are not like, I don't know, they're not authentic. And you've got to have, even like as an A&R, like I need to have like I need to almost have a filter for that, like because there's a lot of it out there, you know.
I think also like a lot of like, if we're just purely talking Instagram, TikTok, if you're very good at playing the Instagram and TikTok game, you can have extreme success in any market, not just music, right? In any market, right?
It's a real skill.
Yeah. But I think when you're going into something that's an authentic, I'm not saying the music is authentic, but like the crux of the music industry is the musician, right? And don't get me wrong, I have no issue with people having engineers and not producing their records and doing all of that.
I don't care.
Like I don't care about that at all. Some of the biggest artists in the world don't do any of that. But the biggest artists in the world, there's a level of authenticity that comes with that. And I think agree. But I also think eventually that shines through, right?
Agreed. Yeah. I mean, actually, something that I would say about my career is, obviously, I broke through doing the kind of deep house again. Well, actually, I broke through doing deep house, really. And then I kind of evolved into the deep house sound. And, you know, that was all very, very authentic. It just naturally happened. It wasn't anything that I planned. And it was just like a story, you know, that naturally progressed. And then I think around 2016, 17, you know, people, like in all music scenes, you know, it's cyclical. So people decided that, you know, that wasn't a thing that they necessarily wanted anymore. So it's that old adage, evolve or die, right? So you have to evolve. And then, but also if you're kind of in a that's where your like head is, evolve or die. Sometimes you forget that actually the reason people came to you and, you know, you had that lucky moment like we were talking about earlier is because it was authentic. That moment happened because you truly believed you were as excited to put those records out. So I found myself like dotting around trying to find where I was authentic again, you know. What was me, like, you know, crisis of confidence, you know, typical like first world problems for an artist, whatever. But also then it put me in a place where I was just swimming around like in the deep end, not able to find my way back, kind of thing. And actually during COVID, I signed a deal with Ultra and released some music that I listen back now, and I don't actually hate any of the music I put out, but it's not, I listen back and I hear like how inauthentic it is, because I was trying so hard to push myself down a lane where I knew I had the skills technically to do it. But actually, I think when you listen to the music, you can hear that my heart wasn't essentially in it, and I was just doing it to try and find my space again. Yeah. And now I'm back to like writing stuff that I legitimately really, really like, and I'm just focusing on finishing the records that I actually do like, rather than trying to finish everything. You know, I'm getting some really, really good labels that wouldn't have touched me at that time back on side, you know. And I think that, and you can even see it going back to social media, you can see it on the engagement in my posts. Like people who used to like me are coming back. They're seeing that authenticity kind of, you know, come back. And I think it's what you said is completely right. I think being authentic in this industry, whereas a lot of people aren't, but I think actually that's what people know. People know when you're full of shit. I think you might be able to get away with it for a month or a year, but then people realize.
Yeah, I agree, and I think it's going back to that. I think it's more so is like more people can see through the shit, and I think the pendulum swang coming out of COVID. The pendulum swang really far left, and I feel like it's slowly going to start moving back into the center with regards to artists and like who's doing what and doing where. And I think the real issue that the industry is kind of going to have to battle is the streaming world and how artists can actually make a living out of
Absolutely.
this.
I mean, this is maybe a question for Ramin, but I mean, streaming and stuff seems to be down across the board, right? So how do you kind of then claw that kind of momentum back without what was for the last 5 years kind of the pinnacle of a release? How do you judge a release now when everything's dropping?
I mean, to be honest, I actually judge a release more on the kind of like promo response and kind of like radio support. I mean, the streams are good, like you can get some good editorial, but then I feel like the editorial playlist world has become a little bit like, it's more like who you know than like the quality of the records. And it's a lot of like, transferring of like, oh, I'll playlist your record if you playlist it. And it's not like, it's not about, I mean, you've got the kind of like, small kind of the more artist playlist, the more homegrown playlist, but the bigger playlist is, the big kind of like editorials. I used to, like 5 years ago, I'd be like, oh, Spotify, UK House have picked up this record, organically and naturally. But it's just there's a lack of that on the stores now, and
so that's something that's changed, isn't it? Because
it's a different world now. The streaming world, like, it's completely different.
Because I can remember before it was like you almost weren't allowed to know who was doing the playlist, so they could just do it in an organic way, so you couldn't curry favor.
Oh, yeah, now you can email the editors and you can be like, oh, this, and you can like, you can. It's all a bit. It's not what it was. But at the same time, there are some really strong artist playlists out there that and they are picking records just by records they love. Which literally is the same as picking for their crate that they play out, and they still exist. But the kind of, I don't know if you'll see an editorial playlist that has like, say, 750,000 saves, and then you look at like real time streams and you gain another 10 streams, like 10 like live listeners. You're like, how does that even match up? Like, are these even active, these playlists?
I think a lot of the, I'm not kind of putting them all, just mentioning one, because I think a lot of them are going down the same route, but like they're using algorithm as a form to monitor a good record. And so let's say, for instance, you get put into one playlist, but you get put on as an algorithm, so you're not necessarily on everyone's playlist. So let's say, for instance, you had techno music and there's 125 records. The top 20 records for everyone is the same, but the next 75 records are completely different based on your algorithm. And I think that's the real issue with this, is that they actually put like 10,000 tracks on those playlists, but you just don't see all of them because it's not based on your algorithm. So I can be told I've been added to techno music. I'll go onto the techno music playlist, search for my name, and I'm not on it on my own algorithm.
That's crazy. And been picked up on someone's algorithms personally on their spot. That's crazy.
Yeah, and that's and I think this is the thing, is why we've seen a massive drop off, because there's just, the pie is just being shared between so many more people, which to a certain extent is good for recognition for newer artists, right? It's great to a level.
Yeah.
But when you're a streaming platform and don't pay a certain amount of money if you have less than 1,000 streams, you're actually saving yourself a shit ton of money, because you're not having to pay as many because you're not streaming as much.
Yeah.
So I think like the issue is that the success is based on your following, on how many people you get to go and play that record.
Yeah.
But again, where does the curator come in? Where does the Radio One? Where does like the Pete Tong essential new tune come in on these Spotify, Apple, Deezer, Amazon, all of the above? Like, I know they have selectors, I know they have editors, but for me, is like, I'm going to a music platform, I expect to be given something that like wows me. Yeah. And it's like being picked out because it's fucking great.
Yeah.
That's why I used to listen to Pete Tong, right? That's why I used to listen to Zane Lowe every week, because I know the hottest record of the week is going to be actually fucking great.
Yeah, completely. And I think that, like you say, I think that the place of the curator, even though they say that's what they do on these streaming platforms, it's kind of dead on those in that corporate world. Like Radio One is great, like it's still really good. I still, every time my track gets played on there, I get a little bit excited. There's no denying it. But then I'm 40, right? Well, 39. Don't wish the world's away. But I come from the same era as you guys. Really, like it was an exciting moment. You've got to wonder, do these things even matter to your 22-year-old producer?
Oh, they surely do, man. Like they must do. Like
you've got to hope they do.
I really hope they do, mate.
You've got to hope they do. But other things for them are important. They right back in the day, getting an essential new tune. I can remember I got it once for one of my tracks, and it it was something to boast about. It was something going back to this whole gig thing. It was something your agent could sell in for gigs. It was a seminal moment. I couldn't tell you what the last 25 essential new tunes are. I don't even really see people posting about them on their socials, which to me is fucking wild. But I guess people have to focus on things that move the needles, and it's gig videos, it's other things that are kind of getting the gigs. And if you can't make money out of this, then if you can't make money out of something, then it's kind of not that important to how you see things. Really, in some ways, it is a business.
I guess, Ramin, for you, is like a question is like, as obviously you're an artist as well, but like as a label person, as artists, we all know we have this thing in the back of our head that we need a hit record, right? Like, how, as an A&R, do you kind of deal with that issue as well? As like, we need a hit record for this record label, or I need to sign a hit record for this to be successful businessly, financially. It's very different. I know, like, where you guys have finances from events and everything like that, but like realistically, you still need to run a business and you need to sell records. How does that even work for you guys, though?
I mean, when I'm like digging for music, I keep it quite simple. Actually, I just kind of look for records that are missing from the crate, concepts that I wouldn't even think of myself, and just tracks we believe in. And I feel like the advantage we have, like if we all believe in a track, we'll all support it, and we've got a platform to push the record. And we actually don't. I've never focused on Instagram followers. I mean, I will literally listen to promos and demos blind. I'm not too like bothered who made the record. I'm just like, if I listen to it on my monitors or my headphones, I'm like, this is fantastic. Like, I'll push it to the team and then we sign it, or vice versa. One of the other people on the team will send me a record. Like, there's no like, I've never actually. It's really interesting you said it. I've never actually listened to demos or records thinking like, oh, I want it to be a Beatport number one, or I want it to be I want it to be a crossover. I actually don't. I've never thought about that, because if I'm really liking a record, I'll play it out. And yeah, I've always kept it as simple as possible. I don't, because I feel like if you're going to sit and listen to A&R and you're constantly looking for the next like big thing, like I feel like you're going to be there forever, because you don't, in this day and age, you don't even know. Like, I don't know. I don't think you guys know what's going to be the next like thing where genres might be a subgenre like poke through, or another sound might start becoming relevant again.
Yeah,
so, like,
exactly.
You don't know. So you just got to stay true to yourself and just be like, I love this record. The team loves this record. Let's put it out. I don't. Even if they have 300 followers on Instagram and they're in another country, like I literally don't. I've never cared about that at all.
That's dope. I guess that brings that back around to our tribe, right? And with what you guys are launching in November. And I think that's the thing. Point. It's like, I think what you're saying, Ramin, with like, you have a team around you, and I think it's very authentic, and it's about the community of what you guys do. And I think with our tribe, you're trying to emulate the same thing, but also add a teaching aspect and a mentoring aspect on top of that.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly right. I mean, that's a very, very good way to sum it up, actually. I think that's a really, really good point. It's about, we've said, Ramin said it, music first, rather than like, we don't care if you've started producing yesterday, or if you've been producing for 10 years and you can't get a foothold in. It's just about creating a safe space for people to share those ideas, those tracks. 100%. Ask people for legitimate feedback, ask like legitimate advice. I mean, I think that's another thing. These communities, like I said, they offer production and something advice, but they don't. If someone has a problem with a booking agent, or if someone a promoter that won't pay, then there's hopefully this will be a space, as just an example, this will be a space to get kind of what you should actually do in that situation, because these situations, every situation, in some way, shape, or form, someone else will have experienced and will know the answer to, and that's why it's really important. But there is the element of Ramin and I will also be doing some coaching as well through the platform. So if you do want more hands-on approach, and we will obviously be there to do it and sharing our kind of guidance directly onto your music. That's an important thing to say, because we've been doing it for people for many years with, pretty good results, So I think that the whole point is kind of amalgamating those into something that is beneficial for the people, and it's worth the money, quite frankly. If I can't put my name to something and charge them some money, and then if someone's pissed off, then I'm going to take that, as a failure, and I don't deal well with that, whereas some people don't give a shit. They just want to take your money and be like, well, see you later.
So how have you organized how it works financially? Not between you guys, but like, let's say, for instance, I was a new producer. I wanted teaching, I wanted mentoring, I wanted to release music. What's that going to look like? Or is then?
So yeah, we've got. I told you on the phone what the major selling point of ours is, but we actually want to save that for the release day as like a promotional thing. But essentially, it's a subscription model of like £30 a month. Within that, you get lots of production videos. You get weekly, like daily kind of posts, and a bit chances to share your music, like interact with everyone in the community, track feedback. We're going to offer like webinars, like very, very regularly. Maybe we'll get you on to do a guest speech if we can afford you. We're trying to, like, every day we're going to try and offer something of value, and then hopefully that then turns into something else. And then the one-to-one coaching, we're kind of, that will probably be an additional cost, because £30 a month is not that much, right?
I was on call. That'd be fantastic.
But we currently work. I currently work with other platforms on that, and actually I will be going directly down to only available through this kind of thing.
Through our tribe.
There has to be a level of exclusivity for us and for them. That if I'm available on 6 other sites, what's the point?
And realistically, like, I know, like, a lot of people, and that's just kind of why I want to ask, because I think a lot of people in this industry, we hate talking about money. Right. Like, we all want it, but we hate talking about it, because realistically, like, I guess where it comes from is we all just want to write music and release music and DJ, right? And I think that's the thing. But I think we are now in the day and age where you have to pay for shit. Like,
for sure.
And in any other industry, you pay for it, right? Like, I pay for masterclass.com because I love learning shit from all the people there, and you're literally learning from, like, the masters in their lane. And I think,
yeah, completely. And some people say to me, well, an hour is not very long, but actually what I can, it's that old thing, right? When someone says, well, why am I going to pay you if you can do it in an hour or whatever? Well, I've put in, like, we've all put in, like, it's not even 10,000 hours, it's fucking 100,000 hours. Like, so if I can get you to a position quicker than what we got, then that it's kind of worth, in my opinion, it's the whole, it makes the money side of it legitimate,
Yeah, I agree, and I think it's something that in the industry we need to talk about more openly, of like values of what everyone's worth.
Massively, because I think some people, some things are overvalued. I won't go into it. Maybe but and, like, there's no tangible reason for why they cost that money. But if you're adding skills, or you're adding guaranteed kind of feedback, or whatever it might be you might need from the session, or from even like the group, then it that money is well spent. There's no denying it.
Yeah, I think that's the thing, is I think having a platform where people can ask questions about careers, like I get it. I'm sure you guys get it all the time. It's like, when am I going to start earning money in music, if you know what I mean? It's like, well, when you're worth something.
Massively,
when your value is to the point where it can be traded into money. And I think that's what people forget, is that we're in a business, and the music industry, over God knows how many years has taken so much advantage over artists because we're not necessarily business savvy people at the beginning of our careers.
Yeah, completely, yeah.
And I think everyone's getting older and everyone's understanding business a lot more. And it's time for, I think it's just time for the artists to fucking make money.
Completely. I mean, yeah, 100%. Like, you know, people, I often get, well, should I get a booking agent now? Should I get a manager? I'm like, well, booking agent will not just suddenly get you gigs.
No.
Like, they have to have something to sell. Like you said, what are you worth? Like, what's your value? What are you adding to these people?
Yeah.
And also because there's less money now in shows, because there's less shows, like lots of clubs are shutting down. You don't have those smaller, like, I mean, in England, it's at like dire straits.
Yeah,
like, you know,
terrible.
and actually this morning I saw Watergate is shutting in Berlin.
Yeah.
You know, because they can't justify the cost, something that's been around for over 20 years. Like, so for an artist to just be like, well, I'm getting a booking agent and then I'll just get loads of gigs, like that model just doesn't exist. And I think but it's trying to get people to the point where they are adding value to lineups or to record labels, and you know, hopefully we can pay our little like just a little step in that process for them, you know, or help them kind of get there.
I agree. I really like the concept, lads. And when it's out, let me know. We can promote it on the podcast. November. What day did you say it comes out?
First
of November. Yeah, sweet.
I mean, obviously this is live, but what day is this coming out?
I don't know. It depends how many people cancel. But technically, you're on 8th of October.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Technically,
that'd be perfect.
But it depends if I
should have asked that afterwards. I'll stop anyway. Yeah, but no. But I think the platform, like, we're going in with the pure, like, and I know a lot of people will say this, but we're going in with like the purest of visibilities. We've been doing this kind of thing for a very long time. We know where people are like not giving these, and it's even just down to false promises. We're not making false promises. We're not saying you join this and you'll be signed to Tool Room or whatever within a week. We're saying that this process is going to help you build your fan base, your community, and give you and elevate your skills to a higher level than they currently are. If that level we can't tell you what the level that's going to be, but you know that you know, false promises are the worst thing in the world, because that never makes anyone happy.
But I also think anybody going into that thinking that that's going to happen is fucking stupid, and I don't want to sound like an idiot.
You'd be surprised though, mate. You'd be surprised.
Yeah, you'd be shocked.
But it's like you go to university and you then have to leave university to go and sort your own life out. University doesn't guarantee you anything. Nothing guarantees you anything in life. So if you're thinking that, then probably don't go in the music industry because you're fucked.
Definitely not. Yeah. You can't be doing it.
Right, lads. Is there social media for this yet? Is there anywhere where people can kind of sign up, pre-sign up? Is there anywhere?
So if you go to the social media is currently being built, because but if you go to mine or to Ramin's or to Bacchus's Instagram, it will be within my link tree. On the kind of all the links will be there. So If you just go to our social media, we have the website coming, which can be just our tribe, rtrybe.com. So that's a good place to start. And you know, everything will be linked on there as well. So everything's gonna be launching from the 1st. So it's a bit, hopefully, but it's like, you know. But if they want to know more, then also just message out to me on Instagram. Ask me, send me a direct message. You know, that's going to be the best way for anyone to contact me. I look at my, you know, the other messages thing quite regularly, because you never know who's in there. So just reach out and ask the questions if you want to know more.
Cool, lads. Thanks so much for coming on. Really appreciate it. Looking forward to seeing this happen. And if I can support anything, just let me know.
Thanks. Big love, man. All right. Well, thank you for having us on. Appreciate it.
Thanks for listening. Till next time, people. Big love.